Good day and welcome to Psych Sense, where we make sense of mental health. I'm Ken Mallon, your host, and today we'll be talking about depression. In particular, I'm going to focus on adolescents, teens, and young adults for a number of reasons that I'll get into at the end of this video. But the big reason is that 20% of adolescents will experience depression before reaching adulthood. That's a big number. Think about it. 20% is 1 out of 5. That means if you have 25 students in your class, odds are that 5 of them will become so depressed by the time they're adults that they'll require treatment. Before we get more into the details, let's talk about what depression is and what it is not. We often hear people talk about depression or feeling depressed, but there's a big difference between feeling down in the dumps and having diagnosable depression. There are a lot of different types of depression. But this book, which you'll see me reference in a lot of future videos, is the DSM-5. It's what mental health professionals use to diagnose mental illnesses in the US. The DSM-5 has an entire section devoted to depressive disorders. And it also has an entire section devoted to bipolar and related disorders. The bipolar disorders can have manic high moods combined with low depressive mood states. And I'll talk more about bipolar disorder in a future video. The depressive disorders include disruptive mood disorder, which is kind of a temper-related disorder. It includes persistent depressive disorder, which used to be called dysthymia, and is basically a continuous type of depression lasting 2 or more years. There's also premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Now don't laugh. This is a severe type of mood disruption associated with the menstrual cycle. And finally, there's major depressive disorder. And that's going to be the focus for today, and is usually what is referred to when people are diagnosed with depression. As with any mental health diagnosis, there are a few parts that are required for a diagnosis. One part is that you have to meet the criteria and you have to meet all the symptom requirements. The second thing is that these symptoms and this experience has to have clinically significant impact on you. And the third thing is that these symptoms can't otherwise be explained by other things, such as substance abuse or another mental disorder or a different medical condition. I'm not going to step through all the boring clinical criteria, but I'll just summarize major depressive disorder like this. What you'll see is depressed mood, obviously, but what we're talking about is depressed mood pretty much daily for 2 or more weeks. This is something you can't seem to shake no matter what. Now in adolescence, this depressed mood sometimes shows itself as irritability. So young people that have major depression, they might just seem very cranky as part of their symptomatology. You'll also very often see sleep changes. Now notice I'm not saying more sleep or less sleep, because you could actually see a lot more. This would be someone who's sleeping maybe 10 to 12 hours at night and then is laying around during the day, maybe taking a nap in the afternoon. So we'll see a lot of sleep. You also see the other end of the spectrum. You'll see people suffering from major depressive disorder who sleep very little. They actually have trouble falling asleep and they have trouble staying asleep. The other thing you often see is weight changes. And again, this can be increase or decrease in weight. Sometimes people suffering from major depressive disorder are so low that they can't really motivate themselves to make food or to eat food. And this causes the weight loss. We also see the other extreme. We see people that are so depressed that they overeat. They're essentially eating to feed their sadness. The final thing you very often see is just what we call lack of interest. You see people that are having the blahs. What you'll see in terms of interest is, let's say someone had a hobby, maybe they play basketball, maybe they work out, that maybe they do artwork. Whatever it is that they typically pursue as a passion, you'll generally see declining during a major depressive episode. Now, I'm generally a very upbeat, positive person, so depression is one of those mental health concerns where I sometimes have difficulty relating. Since I'm a graduate student in psychology, it's going to be very important for me to really understand depression in a deep way. And so one of the ways I'm doing that is by checking out depression-oriented content on YouTube and Instagram. And there's a lot of great content out there. Check out this image I came across on Instagram. It's a painting by Kristen Graham. Chris tries to show how mental illness can eat away at you, and she chooses vegetables to make the connection between rotting and growing. I think it's just a great piece, and thanks very much, Kristen, for letting me use it in this video. Before I wrap up, I want to end with some statistics to illustrate why it's so important to address depression, particularly in adolescents and young adults. Now, 30% of teens with depression also develop a substance abuse problem. Depressed teens are more likely to have trouble at school and in jobs. Teens with untreated depression are more likely to engage in risky behaviors that could lead to higher rates of pregnancy, injuries, and accidents. And the sad truth is that untreated depression is the #1 cause of suicide, which is the leading cause of death among teenagers. And unfortunately, only about a third of teens with depression get help, whereas actually 80% can benefit from help. So if you or someone you know may be suicidal, please contact the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. See the link down below, and it also includes an online chat. In addition, I've also included a checklist from the Centers for Disease Control that can help you figure out if you need to talk to someone about depression. I apologize for kicking off the new year with such a sad topic, but I wanted to tackle a very common mental illness right at the outset of the new year, and one that negatively impacts so many young people. So with that, thanks for watching Psych Sense, where we make sense of mental health. I'm Ken Mallon, your host, and I look forward to talking to you next time.